Apple names their 100 greatest albums of all time. You're watching the BS3 Network presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson.
Come true.
Well, good morning, Shifter. It is Friday, May 24th, 2024, and welcome to BS3 Presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. And for the next hour, sit back and relax as we get and keep you informed, educated, enlightened, entertained, and spiritually fed. Now, on this program today, we will later talk about Apple Music releasing their 100 greatest albums of all time. We'll take a peek of that 100 and touch on it for a minute. We'll also talk about celebrity endorsing. Is it important? Is it something that you should concern yourself with when it comes to elections? We'll touch on the, I guess, psychological aspect of that and how to properly take criticism. All of that is later on the program, but for now, let's get you started up. And here's what is transpiring and going on in the world today. Hijacking mobs and combat are creating a significant stumbling block to humanitarian aid delivered to Gaza, forcing officials to develop alternative routes for arriving at the Pentagon's newly built pier. The U.S. officials said on Thursday the Biden administration has trumpeted the efforts of 1,000 U.S. troops to build a $320 million floating pier and causeway as pivotal to delivering food and medicine to Palestinians caught in the war between Israel and Hamas. Instead, the 2-month effort has gotten off to a slow start in what officials would term it staggering need. Deliveries were suspended for a time after trucks in the first convoys were hijacked. President Joe Biden pushed off criticism as he was dragging in Kenya to take on the Haitian gang crisis, saying that the U.S. wanted to do, in his words, all we can without looking like America's calling the shots in a neighboring island. Haiti is an area on the Caribbean Sea that is considered very volatile, and the U.S. does not want to come off as a heavy-handed figure, as Biden expressed in a news conference yesterday alongside Kenya's president after journalists accused him of committing the African nation to a foreign conflict. Antonio Brown is self-admittedly broke, and that's his words, not ours. The former NFL wide receiver, whose final years in the league involved all types of controversy, filed for bankruptcy in Florida federal court last week, according to court records reviewed by the Florida Times Union. Brown also forget him. A woman who allegedly posed as a registered nurse without a license at multiple Michigan nursing homes has been arrested on felony charges. Prosecutors said that the 52-year-old Flint resident is charged with 30 counts of unauthorized practice of the health profession and 3 counts of identity theft in connection with the crimes. The Michigan General Attorney announced Tuesday that she had a different name while being employed at 3 different nursing stations facilities over a 6-month period in Oakland County in northwestern Metro Detroit. Cassie is breaking her silence for the first time about Sean Diddy Combs. On Instagram, the Me and You singer expressed her thanks for the support she's received since a video surfaced last week of the embattled media mogul hitting, dragging, and kicking her at a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016. Her words are as follows: "Thank you for all the love, support from my family, friends, and strangers, those I've yet to meet. The outpouring of love has created a place for my younger self to settle and feel safe now. But this is only the beginning. Domestic violence is the issue. It broke me down to someone I never thought I would become." And on a side note, kudos to the wonderful shows this week that has actually touched on domestic violence, such as Perspectives, such as Life Happens, even such as Is It Wednesday Yet? I'm loving the fact that on the B3 network, we are touching those subjects that many are scared to even broach. And I am so happy personally for Cassie and the fact she's picked herself up. And now she's living her life better than she could have ever imagined back in that sordid episode 8 years ago. The U.S. Air Force released the first in flight photos of its newest nuclear stealth bomber, the B 21 Raider, on Wednesday after defense officials confirmed the sleek military aircraft had taken to the sky in California. Andrew Hunter said that the flight test program is proceeding well, and the Assistant Secretary to the Air Force acquisition said during an armed Senate committee meeting earlier this month in D.C., it is doing what the flight test programs are designed to do, which is helping us learn about the unique characteristics of this platform in a very, very effective way. The Justice Department is suing Ticketmaster and its parent company, Live Nation Entertainment, for allegedly monopolizing the live entertainment industry. The department, along with attorneys general of 29 states and the District of Columbia, is suing Ticketmaster and its parent company, Live Nation, for allegedly monopolizing the live entertainment industry. Now, the lawsuit aims to restore competition in the space, lower ticket prices for fans. Chick-fil-A is cooking up something new this summer. The Georgia-based restaurant chain is introducing a new limited-time maple pepper bacon sandwich June 10th. In a press release, Chick-fil-A describes the sandwich this way: "It is delicious, and it's a sweet, savory, and spicy brand offering an entirely different flavor profile than any other sandwich they've ever launched." The sandwich will roll out alongside the fan favorite peach milkshake, which is returning for its 15th season. In sports, the Oilers got a goal in double overtime to take home ice advantage for the Stars, beating them 3-2, and now they're up 1-0. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs is tomorrow night. Meanwhile, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs is tonight between the Panthers, who are up 1-0, and the Rangers, who are still looking for their first goal in the series. From the ice to the hardwood, the Celtics coast to a 2-0 series lead with Jaylen Brown 40-point performance. Now they will play the Pacers in Game 3 in Indy tomorrow night. Game 2 of the Twin Cities between the Mavs, who are up 1-0, and the Timberwolves, that is tonight. Turning our attention to weather across the U.S., it's courtesy of the Weather Channel. In the Pacific Northwest, it'll be partly cloudy and 68 in Seattle. In the Midwest, it'll be mostly sunny and 79 in Minneapolis, mostly sunny and 78 in Chicago, sunny and 81 in Detroit, cloudy and 81 in St. Louis. On the East Coast, it'll be thunderstorms and 77 in Boston, thunderstorms and 79 in New York, and it will be sun and a thunderstorm mix with a high of 84 in D.C. In the South, it'll be partly cloudy and 84 in Miami, cloudy and 84 in Atlanta. With a sun and thunderstorm mix, the high will be 78 in Memphis. It'll be partly cloudy and 89 in New Orleans. In the Southwest, it'll be partly cloudy and 95 in San Antonio, cloudy and 87 in Dallas, partly cloudy and 91 in Houston. It'll be partly cloudy and 80 in Denver, sunny and 97 in Phoenix, sunny and 92 in Las Vegas. And over on the West Coast, it'll be sunny and 66 in San Francisco, and it'll be partly cloudy and 69 in the City of Angels. And that is your look on weather. And now you have been properly started out. Well, later on, Apple named their 100 greatest albums of all time, and four things and four ways to receive criticism the proper way. But coming up next, Amber Rose and endorsements of political figures. Does it have an influence and an impact on society? Well, it'll be just my thoughts when you get back. This is the BS3 Network presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. We'll be right back after this.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
Bernstein.
NBA people are the best people ever. Everything that I've ever wanted to do was always sort of pointed towards the NBA.
Yes. Daniel Jones, I don't listen, I wasn't sold on him in the beginning either.
Ben Sutter, Dan Quinn. Like, he may not be the greatest head coach, but one thing we do know is that he can coach defenses.
Mirren Fader.
If I did a biography on Hakeem Olajuwon, this is the first true international superstar.
Looking for the up-to-date information in the world of sports? The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. Live every Saturday at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. Life.
Scratching and clawing to overcome adversities in life.
Family.
That's what I love about our children. God instilled that in us, and thank God they carry on that torch.
Marriage.
We struggled in different ways, naturally, as husband and wife.
And God.
The Lord is on my side. I will not fear what man can do unto me.
Join the husband and wife team of Ben Southern Jr. and Irene Southern as they give you the full scope of life. BS3 Network proudly presents the Suds Are Us podcast, live every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central.
Welcome back to the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. Glad that you're here with me, Shifter. And speaking of the shifters, let's talk to a couple of them right now. One of the prized possession of the Shifter Nation. Yes, that is V like a 3 or Victor Lock or Vicala. I don't know where I've heard that from. He says, good morning to all the fellow shifters. And it is Friday. Good morning to my friend and mentor, the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson. Well, thank you. And that is coming from the man who is what I call the Ed McMahon of the Snowman in the Morning podcast. That would be Victor Locke. And yes, and Victor, say hello to, of course, Snowman and Shane for me. And I got to get to meet Droid one of these days. Cool McCain. Good Lord, of so many different programs. One of my truest brothers in broadcasting. Let me see. Eagles of the Lead podcast, which is Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. That's on the PM side. Let me see. Monsters of Wrestling, Mondays at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. And that's also on the PM side as well. And he hosts that with the Playmaker. Play Callers Sports Show. I mean, and I believe that's on Fridays. The man is busy. So how you doing, my brother? It is good to see you. What's up? What's up? What's up? I don't think I'll ever can get as high as Martin Lawrence actually does with that. And I appreciate that, sir. Um, hmm. Huh. This is going to be a tough subject to really talk about, but I might as well do it now. Huh. Celebrity peer pressure. Now, we've seen it. I mean, every time, especially during the presidential elections, we would see celebrities from out of nowhere just come up with campaigns. We saw it with Paris Hilton 20 years ago, trying to sell the voter die shirt. And then when she was interviewed after the election, she was like, "Oh, election day passed. Oh, I didn't even place a vote." You almost have to, I guess, vet the celebrities that endorse candidates. And it happens every single presidential cycle. However, the question I ask is it really important? And that's just how I feel. So, in just my thoughts, I'm going to go into if I think we have a feel in terms of influence and celebrity when it comes to endorsements. And this comes from earlier this week, Amber Rose actually endorsing Donald Trump and doing it on social media. In fact, she's actually doing it on her Instagram page with a picture of Donald Trump and Melania beside her. So she became the latest celebrity to endorse a candidate for president, and shocked, but I would not say shocked. I think it mortified and angered fans really by posing with a picture, like I said, of Donald Trump and his wife Melania, and it looked like it was at a fundraiser. And others have come forth and said, well, either I am going to back Trump or I'm not even going to come close to backing Biden. For example, Cardi B. She publicly said that she's not going to vote for either President President Biden or former President Trump this November. That's becoming more commonplace as well. And she did this in a Rolling Stone interview. And she's pulling her support from Biden due to his support for funding ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas war. That's her rationale. Now, she's also talking about Cardi B. Has been previously an outspoken supporter of Bernie Sanders. That's what she endorsed back in 2020 before having to switch her endorsement of Biden after Sanders pulled his candidacy for the president. Back in April, I had to turn when this was happening, actually. Back in early April, you had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson get interviewed in Lincoln Financial Field by Will Cain. And he was on the Will Cain show. And he talked about his 2020 endorsement of Biden, the way he did it. He actually took time to, I think he did like a 4-minute video to describe who he was going to endorse and why. And he, on that show, actually said that he was going to pull his endorsement from Biden. He was not going to support him in the upcoming election in 2024. One of the reasons why is he actually said it was sort of divisive in how when he publicly backed Biden the way he did, that it was unsettling to him. So this time around, he's not going to do that. You have rapper Macklemore. Now, of course, people will probably throw eggs at him and probably me for the mention, but he is actually a celebrity. Now, in a song, he suggested that he will not back Biden in a song that he released supporting anti-war protesters at Columbia, and that's a university in New York, Ivy League school in New York, I may add. And he rapped by saying, "The blood is on your hands, Biden. See it all, and no, I'm not voting for you in the fall." And now you have other celebrities who are being critical of Biden, really concentrating over the war in Gaza and the U.S. being in the U.S. aiding Israel. And the Biden criticisms have come Let me see. Euphoria star Hunter Schafer. He was arrested for protesting Biden's appearance on Late Night with Seth Meyers, and he hasn't made an official endorsement yet. You have Michael Rappaport, who he went on the Patrick Ben David, I had to think of it real fast, podcast, and he talked endlessly about how he just couldn't stand Trump's mouth, and because of 2020, that really appealed him to say, okay, I got to vote against this guy to get him out of Washington. Now he will not vote for Biden because he paused weapon shipments to Israel when the nation's military moved to invade Rafah, where millions of Palestinian civilians were taking refuge. And he also went on to say that he probably would now choose to vote for Trump because, well, since Rappaport's a New Yorker and he has a big mouth, he had to think long and hard and said, well, yeah, Trump is basically a New Yorker, has a big mouth. He could care less what people think in terms of being critical of him. Now, although some celebrities are voicing their criticism against Biden, the polling actually suggests that the presumptive Democratic nominee and the current president still has an advantage with younger voters. A poll from the Harvard Youth, it was released last month, saying that Biden still has a commanding 19-point lead among the voters 18 to 29, but that lead does begin to shrink after independent third-party candidates, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Jill Stein, and Dr. Cornel West. Good Lord, I can't believe he actually is trying to run for president, but I digress. Those were included in that poll. But during the last election cycle, presidential election cycle in 2020, dozens of major celebrities endorsed Biden over Trump. And normally, celebrities have traditionally come to the defense and come to the endorsement of Democratic candidates, and some are still doing it. Mark Hamill, for example, around late April, actually, I'm sorry, around early May, right around the May the 4th be with you type of situation where I believe it was a ceremony where Biden actually made May 4th Star Wars Day in DC. Mark Hamill visited Biden. He ended up getting a pair of Ray-Ban aviator sunglasses from him, and he made it clear that he's endorsing Biden still, even now. But only a handful like him have endorsed him so far this time around. Lin-Manuel Miranda is another who have passionately endorsed Biden. But other performers who endorsed Biden in 2020, they haven't said anything. In fact, mom has been the word. Taylor Swift, Beyonce, to name a few. Even Lizzo and Queen Latifah and Leah Michelle, the actress in Glee, if you don't know who she is. They all performed at a massive fundraiser, which raised $25 million in a single night back in March. But all of them have been mummed to actually say if they're actually supporting them. But of course, this might be a tactic that, okay, I'm silent in May, but around 6 months from now, I'll go to the voting box and say I'm voting for Biden, and in October I'll come out and say it. Here's another example: Bruce Springsteen. He didn't officially endorse President Biden in 2020 until he released an ad on Halloween. And the election was, 8 days away. Former President Trump, of course, has garnered support from celebrities himself. Jason Aldean is one. John Voight is another. Of course, Kid Rock is definitely another. And he has famously scored an endorsement from, of course, the New York Giants great Lawrence Taylor. Now, although Trump and Biden are the likely nominees for the major parties this coming election, you still have other celebrities who really want so badly Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to run and win as an independent for the President of the United States. Now, those who are supporting the 70-year-old I could say political Camelot, would be Rob Schneider and Woody Harrelson. Even John Stockton, the gas legend, he has endorsed Kennedy. And also Kevin Spacey has given his support as well. But back to Amber Rose. Now she supported no, she's endorsed Trump early this week. However, 8 years ago, she was actually wanting to throw her weight behind Hillary Clinton. Yes. And her verbiage was if Donald Trump would win the presidency back in 2016, she would leave the country and she would take her son with her. So how much weight can you really place on celebrity endorsements? Help me out with this, because the older I've gotten, the more I've really checked out on celebrity endorsements, because it is like what I highlighted with Amber Rose. One day they can wake up on one side of the bed and say, yeah, Biden is a great guy. And then wake up the next morning, roll on the other side of the bed and say, Trump, they say he's a womanizer. He's not so much. And I support him. Even in my slut walk, I'll support Trump. That is the feel I get when I see these celebrities actually throw their weight behind a candidate. It's empty. And so if it's going to be empty like that, why should we throw our weight with their candidate's choice and their candidacy to actually ride whatever candidate they choose to the Oval Office? Those are just my thoughts. Nothing really spectacular. And we'll take a break now. We'll take a pause for the cause. And when we come back, Apple Music, 100 albums of all time. Yeah, they named them. You'll be surprised who's number one. This is The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the B Street Network. We'll be right back right after this.
Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe. Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure. Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do two circles, and that translates to, I can beat up black people.
As he takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, No, Pacific Time Zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
What's up, everybody? This is Information Man and the Information Man Show. Now, what I do is hard, cutting-edge analysis, assessment of what's happening in our world today, whether it be news, politics, current events, cultural issues, social issues. Commentary is what I do over here. Most of all is what we try to do here on the Information Man Show is try to get to a solution to the problems that we see today.
Welcome back to the morning shift with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. Glad that you're here, Shifter. And we are on our way to a wonderful long 3-day weekend. Yes. Oh, and program, we will be doing a broadcast Monday. Yes, that's right, Memorial Day. And it will be the same time, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. So if you feel as though you want to stay in, that's fine. You can get a cup of coffee. You can cook some eggs and, well, I don't do the bacon and ham, but that might be you. And throw some toast in the toaster, and or pour some cereal in a bowl, and come and watch yours truly as we talk, as we always do, about everything in news, in sports, in weather, in inspiration, in politics, and entertainment, and in whatever else might tickle the fancy of the world and you, the shifter. And speaking of the shifters, one of my favorite shifters, Snowman. He says, "Hey, Snowman, checking in from Indiana." Kuma Kane, along with actually giving Vekalach customary greeting. He says, "Look, the real losers in this election is us, the American public." You start to sound like somebody that I know very well. Well, actually, someone you two know very well, Cool. I think I might hear that again when I record with them again. Uh, Victor, he says, "Look, it always seems so much harder for independents to get any traction in the polls. It's the fact that they don't have the long money that the Republicans and Democratic parties have, and so yes, short money equals equals long shot. I think that's the best way to put it. Short money in the political realm equals long shot. Long money equals a sure and a sure shot. And that is what's unfortunate, but that is what happens." He also says, "Good morning, Kingpin Snowman." Good. All you need to have is Shane, and we'll actually have Snowman in the morning in the Shift Nation. That'd be great. But we're not going to be talking about sports for now. We're actually going to be talking about music because Apple released a list. And when we talk about the greatest albums of all time, now the list normally has its usual suspects. Think about it, if you will, in public. Thriller by Michael Jackson is one. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles, that's another. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, that's another. Songs of the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, that's yet another song. I can think of other albums. The Speaker Boss Love Below by Outkast. I mean, there are so many albums, so many that you can think of when it's like, oh, the greatest of all time. Yeah, these. Even Purple Rain by Prince. But who did Apple select as the best of the best, and who did they select as the number one of the best of the best? In today's cover story, we are going to dive right into the top 10 of Apple's 100 best albums of all time. So you have Apple. They released it this week. They sort of slowly peeled off by tens, basically like 191, and then from 81 to 90, and so forth and so on. Well, this week they released at 10 to 1, and I'll get to that list shortly. So they closed out this week their 100 best albums of all time this past Wednesday. The top spot goes to Lauryn Hill. Yes. The album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, from Apple Music is considered the greatest album ever created in music history. Now, her solo debut project in 1998, it beat out Michael Jackson's Thriller, it beat out Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, it beat out Abbey Road by the Beatles, and it beat out the aforementioned Sauce the Key of Life from Stevie Wonder, among every other in the history of music recording by Apple. Now, if you were to have asked Rolling Stone in their 500 best albums list, they consider What's Going On by Marvin Gaye as the best ever, without question. But the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill on that publication lands at number 10. So just like any other list, it's subjective, I guess. But Scott Plaganoff, I'm sorry, Apple Music's global head of music programming, he talked to USA Today, and he had this to say about the list. He said, unlike other lists, we wanted it to reflect albums that really had an impact on music artists, on the music artists that are making today, and that these are hand selected by the most passionate people on earth. Also, what is noticed in this list is that there's a lot of hip hop on it. In fact, of the 100, more than 1/5 of the albums came from hip hop. Yeah. 22 to be exact. Soul and R&B albums, they came in second when representation with 19. You had rock and alternative albums tied at 15 each. And then you had other reggae, country, Latin albums. They each had one. Bad Bunny was the only Latino representative making the list, the Un Verano Sin Ti, and it came at number 76. Plagenhoff, said that he says that the contributors were told to look back and consider the impact of the albums that were under consideration. And he said that he was pleasantly surprised to see a large number of artists, Sade, Janet Jackson, Bjork, Tribe Called Quest, Steely Dan, Erykah Badu, Portishead, and others who instinctively feel more relevant today and actually and quantitatively place higher on the list than if you were to think about yesteryear. So the top 10, going from 10 to 1, that Apple Music deems is the greatest albums ever created. Number 10 would be Lemonade by Beyonce. Number 9 would be Nevermind by Nirvana. Number 8 would be Back to Black by the late Amy Winehouse. Number 7 would be Good Kid, Mad City, the deluxe edition of Kendrick Lamar. And congratulations to you, sir, on having a diss track be the number 1 Billboard Hot 100 single in its first week on the chart. Number 6, Songs of the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. Number 5, Blonde by Frank Ocean. 4, Purple Rain by Prince. Number 3, Abbey Road by the Beatles. Number 2, Thriller by Michael Jackson. And number 1, of course, as I said earlier, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill from L Boogie. Now, news release, Apple said that the list was chosen by a committee that included artists, Apple Music employees, and industry insiders, and that it was considered like a love letter to the records that have shaped the world we all live and listen in. Of course, Apple is based out of California. They said it didn't factor in streaming statistics when compiling said list. The release of the top 10 was accompanied by a roundtable discussion between artist Nile Rodgers, and if you don't know him, he's a big-time producer, and he was the rhythm guitarist of the group Chic, and Mackie Rogers, Apple Music's global creative director Zane Lowe, and radio personality Ebro. In said discussion, the panelists praised the timeless nature of the top album. In fact, Lowe had this to say about it. Said there's a lot of young people and a lot of young artists hearing Miseducation 10, 15, and now 26 years after it came out, and it's becoming a part of their artistic DNA. Working on this list and on the other 90 that I'm not going to get into here, will continue for another week on Apple Radio. Now, as I said, this is subjective. Now, you all may have something that you consider to be the greatest. In fact, of the 10 albums that they consider the greatest of all time, I have listened to, in totality, 6 of them, mostly another 2, and in part the other 2. Look, I know Songs of the Key of Life like the palm of my hand. That was one of the albums that my father endlessly played back in the day. Thriller was an album that endlessly played with my mother. Let me see. Good Kid, Mad City. That I had to admit, that was something that my niece turned me on to. Well, not necessarily the album, but the artist killing him, Kendrick Lamar. She just couldn't stop singing Don't Kill My Vibe. Let me see. Of course, Purple Rain. Played that endlessly from beginning to end. Abbey Road played endlessly in the end. Lemonade, I actually saw every video of Lemonade with my wife and my mother-in-law. Do not get on a woman's bad side and have women pop Lemonade and they're watching it. That's not a good thing. Now, I've heard a couple songs of Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. I've heard all of Nevermind by Nirvana. Good list. I won't say it's the best list of all time, but a good list. Because I think there's other more impactful albums that should be on there. In fact, Hotel California by the Eagles is a good example. I think that's an impactful album. Again, I mentioned Speak of Boss Love Below Wildcats. I think that album has impact. And we can go on and on. But that's the beauty about music. It's subjective and it's personal. Whatever you feel is what you feel, and you can't dispute that. That there's nothing to dispute. Music is indisputable, but what is under dispute, though, is if you're going to select anything that is of the greatest albums of all time, you should always remain objective. And I know that's very difficult to do in something so subjective as to what hits you in the feels musically. But if you're going to compare lists with all the different genres that has been created, you have to be objective. And that's today's cover story. When we return, 4 ways that you can properly accept criticism. This is the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. We will be right back right after this.
Eric Butler, a.k.a.
The Intellect, a.k.a. Coloring. I'm the biggest diamond ever found on land, a.k.a. The Atlantic. Cold, deep, and choppy.
LaToya the Therapist, a.k.a.
Them kids' mama, a.k.a. Jeff's wife, a.k.a. LaToya the Therapist. I am a licensed professional counselor.
Beauty and Brains, clinical and principled, insightful and intelligent. BS3 Network proudly presents Perspective, live every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central. Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 Network that has only 4 words to say to you.
We ready. We ready. We ready.
powered by JM&E. Live weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
Welcome back to the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BC Network. It is great that you're joining me, Shifter. Love to have you. And back to the Shift Nation. Cool says, oh yeah, BBL Drizzy. BBL Drizzy. Oh, I'm sorry. That should be a top song instrumental. Man, when we were younger, man, instrumentals actually were or possibly could be number one pop hits. And when we got older, they wanted to phase that out. And I'm like, man, yeah, I would love to have instrumentals actually return as a force on the record charts. That would be great. That'd be wonderful. Now, what might not be so wonderful is criticism. And I'm not saying how someone deals it out. I'm talking about how you take it. Because it can be very hard, especially if you don't have the heart for it, and also especially if you don't ask for it. But how can you be prepared at all times to properly take it? Welcome to Lighten the Way. Conversation last night with my wife, and it was one where she was offering advice and I didn't ask for it. And I got in my feels for a quick second, but then after that, I was like, no. I remember something that my father would always tell me, and today he would still tell me this. He would say, look, son, choose the hills to die on. And so last night I chose that hill was not worth dying. So I was like, she feels the need to criticize. Okay. And I feel the need to criticize me. That's fine. I'm not going to bring up times when I criticize her and she says, I didn't ask for this, so don't give me any. So I just let her go. But it's not about if others can take your criticism, how others take it. It's how you take it. And I had to face this myself earlier this morning when I was thinking, did I take the criticism I heard from my wife properly? I mean, obviously we walk away and everything is good. I mean, there's no feelings, there's no hard feelings, there's no heart of stone. And that's part of it. When Jesus talks about how when you're supposed to receive something, he compared our hearts to ground. It's like, if it's stony, you could throw seed down in it and nothing will grow from it because what can grow from stone? Rocky, well, yeah, you can have some sprout from the cracks, but the harder surface of the rock will basically kill the rest of the life. why Tupac actually wrote a poem called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. And basically it's a poem talking about him growing up in today's society and today's America. Well, today's America back in, he probably wrote the poem in 1990. So there you go. But Jesus said, but then there is when you put and you sprinkle seed on fertile ground. That is how you want your heart to be. You want your heart to be ready to receive things, even if it is hard to take, so that you can continue on when you can grow. And so there are 4 ways that I had to understand, and this is what God said to me. Son, there are 4 ways that you're properly supposed to take criticism. The first one is with a listening ear. Now, we know that in the Bible it says that you should be slow to speak and swift to listen. But also in the Bible, in the Gospel according to Matthew, Jesus actually, in a few times in the times he would talk about parables, he actually would say, whoever has ears, let him hear. And you can find that in chapter 11 of the Gospel according to Matthew, verse 15. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Basically saying, look, what I have to say is important, so you better listen up. Take extreme caution when you hear me say this. Pay particular attention when I utter these words. That is what a listening ear is supposed to do. And what I've understood is that a listening ear eliminates a judging heart. Because normally we are defensive sort of human beings. I know I'm defensive. I gather, Shifter, you're defensive. And when you hear something that's dissenting from either something that strokes your ego or something that is good or something that's positive, you tend to have a stiff upper lip approach, and either you tune them out or you defend and you cut them off. So having a listening ear is vastly important. The second way that we're supposed to accept criticism, and that is with, of all things, gratitude. I know that sounds out of turn. It sounds out of place, but yes, gratitude. Because obviously the person who was giving you the criticism didn't have to give it to you. Solomon says it in Proverbs. I mean, he, of course, spat a whole ton of wisdom in Proverbs. 15th chapter, the 31st and 32nd verse, he says, whoever heeds life-giving correction will be at home among the wise. Those who disregard discipline despise themselves, but the one who heeds correction gains understanding. So what is he saying there? Well, there's a grain of knowledge that you're supposed to gain from criticism. Now, let's be honest. Is all criticism valid or wise? No. No. But we have the gift of discernment. So here is Solomon saying, look, if it's something that is pertinent to your life and you're heading in the wrong direction, you feel as though you can get that nugget that can change your course, take heed to it, because it actually might improve your life. You actually might be better. But if you're going to be stiff upper lipped, or if you're going to be returning back to the parable of the soil, stony in heart, well, then doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But it must mean deep down you don't like yourself. And that is a hard pill to swallow when you think about it. The third way we are supposed to accept criticism, and that is with humility. And I know that's a really tough word, especially with criticism. James talks about it, chapter 4, in the 6th verse. He says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. When someone speaks ill of us or someone speaks negative of us, we automatically go on the attack and think, well, no, I got to defend myself. But you got to discern if it is an attack or if it's criticism. And normally, if it's coming from someone who loves you, it's an attack. Now, sometimes it is because we're human and we do get in our flesh. But if it's meant to correct, if it's meant to steer us in a different course, if it's meant to steer us on a right course, then we should be proud in that moment. We should be humble. And God says it himself. I'll give grace to you. If you're humble in criticism, I'll give grace to you. I know it's a tough pill to swallow. It's basically like swallowing mud. You get you get a spoonful of dirt. It's puts in your mouth. It turns to mud in your mouth. Mud is not the greatest thing you can taste ever, but it'll be for your good. Now, if it's someone who wants to shovel crap in your mouth, that's a different story. But he gives you grace to accept it. And grace is if you're humble. And humility is not the best, it's not the worst thing in the world. In fact, it's a pretty good tool to have. And the last, of course, is prayer. That to me, that's the ultimate way that any of us, you or I, could ever accept criticism. Back to Solomon, he said this in the 27th chapter of it. He says, verse, he says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. I'll brass tacks that for you, and this basically will end this meditation. No matter when you receive the criticism, no matter how, no matter with what, it is always better to receive the wounds from a loved one, bro, than to receive a beautiful kiss from false lips that flatter you and you perish. Well, that is all the time I have. Thank you so much, Shifter, for joining me this wonderful, glorious morning. And I would like to thank the morning shift staff. I actually like to thank BSV Network. This has been a wonderful 20 shows in 4 weeks. And I look forward to doing more with you, with BS3, and with the shifters. I appreciate and thank all of you. And thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. And thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch everything that comes from the BS3 Morning Shift Cole Johnson YouTube channel and our partners who carry this very program. For all of us here at the BS3 Network and the Morning Shift, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as I always do, if you lack commitment, you will never start. If you lack consistency, you will never finish. And if you lack love, you most certainly will never conquer. Until we meet again in 71 hours, when we commemorate those who gave their lives for us and our freedom. Thank you, Shifter. I love you. Be blessed and continue to be blessed. And so long.